The silent prisoner, the cell was cold. The walls were made of black stone, smooth and quiet. Soft blue lights glowed from the ceiling, but they gave no warmth. In the center of the room sat a man, human, silent. He had been sitting there for 5 days, no food, no water, no movement. He just stared ahead, eyes open, breathing slow. The aliens called him Prisoner 627. He had another name once, but no one knew it now. The aliens didn't ask. They were waiting for him to speak first. Commander. Ixelle watched the human from the control room above. The window showed everything, every twitch, every blink, but the human did none of that. "He's broken," said the junior officer. "Maybe the capture damaged his mind." Commander Ixelle shook his head. "No," he said. "He's not broken. He's thinking." Ixelle had fought many species in his time. Some screamed when caught, some begged, some cursed, but this one, this human, said nothing. Even when they injected him with truth serum, he said nothing. Even when they played sound torture, still nothing. Down in the cell, a guard named Varu walked in. He held a small metal box. Food. "Eat," Varu said, placing it in front of the man. No reply. The man didn't even look at it. "You will die," Varu warned. Still silence. Varu looked into the human's eyes. They were dark, not angry, not afraid, just quiet. Something about them made Varu feel cold. He stepped back and left the room quickly. In the hallway outside, he spoke to his partner. "I don't like him," he said. "He's harmless," the other guard replied. "No," Varu said. "He's dangerous, but not with weapons, with something else." The alien scientists had scanned the human's brain. No implants, no tech, nothing strange, but every reading was calm, too calm. No fear, no stress, just peace. "It's unnatural," the head scientist said. "Maybe he wants to die," someone suggested. "Or maybe he's waiting for something," the scientist replied. On day 6, something strange happened. The lights flickered, just for a second. Then everything was normal again. "Power glitch?" a technician asked. "No," said another. "Systems are stable." Commander Ixelle looked at the human again. He was still sitting, still silent. That night, one of the guards had a dream. He saw burning skies, broken ships, and a voice whispering, "We watched, we prepared, you should not have come." He woke up sweating. When he told the others, they laughed. "You're scared of a mute human?" But more guards reported similar dreams the next day. Commander Ixelle began to worry. "What if this is not just silence?" he asked the council. "What do you mean?" "What if it's a message?" The council laughed. "Nonsense. He's weak. He lost." Ixelle didn't laugh. "Then why do I feel like he's winning?" By day 7, rumors had spread through the alien base. Some said the human was a weapon. Others said he was already dead, and they were watching a ghost. A young alien soldier tried to test him. He went into the cell and shouted in his face, "You are alone! Your world is gone! Speak!" No answer. The human didn't move. The soldier slapped him hard. Nothing. But that night the soldier had no sleep. He heard whispers in the dark. His room was cold, though the heat was on. And in the mirror, for a second, he thought he saw the human standing behind him. He requested transfer the next morning. On the evening of day 7, the human finally moved. Only his hand. He reached down, and with one finger he drew something on the floor using dirt from his boot. The camera zoomed in. It was a circle, and inside the circle, a crack, a jagged line across it. "What is that?" asked a technician. "A broken moon?" said the scientist. Commander Ixelle stepped closer to the screen. "This is not art," he whispered. "It's a warning." He turned to the others. "Find out what that symbol means, now." The human looked up at the camera for the first time, eyes locked with Commander Ixelle. No smile, no anger, just quiet understanding. Excel stepped back from the glass. "He knows we're watching," he said. "What do we do?" asked the officer. Excel's voice was low and steady. "We stop thinking of him as a prisoner and start treating him like the beginning of something worse, the fear behind silence. The nightmares began on the 8th night. No one understood why. The guards started to whisper. They slept in shifts now, afraid to be alone in the dark. They said the air felt heavier, colder. They said something was watching them, but no cameras showed anything strange. The human had not moved again. He still sat in the same position, head still, eyes forward, mouth shut. Yet somehow fear was growing, spreading like a virus through the base. Guard Varou sat in the security room. His eyes were red. He hadn't slept in 2 days. He watched the feed from the prisoner's cell. The man hadn't blinked for hours. "He's not natural," Varou muttered. "You're being paranoid," said the technician next to him. Varou didn't answer. He just stared at the screen. Suddenly, the human tilted his head just slightly, barely an inch, but it was enough. The camera glitched, only for half a second. Varou leaned forward. "Did you see that?" "See what?" "He moved. It's just a shift. People move." "He hasn't moved in 7 days, not once." The technician looked at the feed again. The human was still now, as if nothing happened, but Varou felt it in his bones. Something had changed. Commander Zell stood. In the command chamber, a report had just arrived. "Sir," said his officer, "4 guards have requested psychological leave. They're seeing things." "What kind of things?" "Visions, shadows, voices whispering in their sleep. Some claim the prisoner is inside their minds." Zell frowned. "Nonsense. We scanned him. He has no telepathic ability." "What if the scans miss something?" That question stayed in Excel's mind long after the officer left. He looked at the image of the human on the screen. Still silent, still sitting, still watching. The dreams became worse. One night a medic dreamed of walking through the ruins of her own city. Flames, blood. She saw her family, frozen in place, staring, silent. And in the center of it all, the human stood, whispering, "They started the war, but you will end it from within." She woke up screaming. A meeting was called. Military, science, and intelligence officers all gathered. "What are we dealing with?" Excel asked. "His silence may be a form of psychic interference," said the lead scientist, "but that would mean he's not acting alone. He may be connected to something else." "Like what?" "Maybe a system, or a network, or an intelligence we can't detect." Excel slammed the table. "He is one man, one prisoner." "Yes," the scientist said slowly. "But what if he's not the weapon? What if he's the trigger?" The room fell quiet. Down in the research wing, a young technician named Tavi had a theory. She believed the human wasn't using technology. He was using belief. "What do you mean?" her partner asked. "Thoughts are power," she said. "Maybe he's turning our own minds against us, not with machines, with ideas. We watch him, we think about him, we fear him. That gives him strength." Her partner laughed nervously. "He's not a god." "Then why are people dreaming?" "About him," she asked. "Why do they wake up crying?" Tavi checked her screen again. A strange signal pulse had been detected. Not from the human, but from the base's deep systems. Something was echoing, responding, listening. She paused. The signal was shaped like a brainwave, and it matched the human's. Meanwhile, Commander, Excel visited the prisoner. Not through a screen this time. He entered the observation chamber himself. 2 guards stayed outside. He walked in, slowly. The human didn't move. "What are you?" Excel asked. "Silence. Your planet fell. Your kind is finished. Why don't you speak?" The human blinked once. Then he turned his head just slightly and looked directly at Excel. Axel felt a chill go through his body. For a moment, it was as if the room itself was listening. Then the human smiled. Not a full smile, just the corner of his mouth, like he knew something no one else did. Axel stepped back. The door opened behind him, and he rushed out. The guards looked at him in shock. "Sir, you're shaking." "Seal the cell," Axel said quickly. "No more visitors, no more scans, nothing." That night something happened. The entire base lost power for 13 seconds. All lights shut down, all systems paused. Backup engines kicked in, but during those 13 seconds all cameras went black. When they came back online, the human had moved. He was standing, arms by his side, head down, eyes closed, but the smile was gone. In its place was a face of complete calm. Too calm. Axel watched the feed in silence. "What's happening to us?" one of the generals asked. Axel whispered, "He's showing us the truth, and we're not ready for it." The story of the silent prisoner was no longer just about a man. It was becoming a warning, and no one knew what would happen when he finally did speak. The alien divide. The base was quiet, but not peaceful. Whispers filled the halls. Rumors moved faster than orders. Fear spread like smoke, thick, invisible, choking. It had been 10 days since the human arrived. 10 days of silence. No words, no aggression, just stillness. But that stillness was breaking something deeper than walls. It was breaking trust. Commander Axel sat alone in his private chamber. The lights were low. He had not slept for 2 nights. He replayed the footage again, frame by frame. The human's smile, the standing posture, the 13 seconds of darkness. Nothing about it made sense. Every camera, every sensor, every defense system, they had all blinked at the same time. Axel knew one thing: the silence wasn't passive, it was pressure, growing pressure. He opened a secure call. "Bring me Councillor Vane, now." On the upper levels, Councillor Vane, the political head of Alien Command, was already arguing with military advisors. "We're keeping him alive for what?" Vane shouted. "He's poisoning our people. Half the guards have resigned. The others are hallucinating. And now entire sectors believe he's some kind of prophet." "You want to execute him?" a general asked. "No, I want to erase him." "What's the difference?" Vane didn't answer. Meanwhile, something strange happened in the barracks. A young alien soldier named Jara sat alone, staring at her. Reflection. She had been one of the human's early guards. She had mocked him once, laughed at his silence. Now she couldn't sleep. She saw him in mirrors. She heard his breath in empty rooms. But worse, she was beginning to question everything. What if they attacked Earth first? What if they lied to us? What if the human knows? And that's why he doesn't speak. She wasn't alone. Across the base, whispers turned into conversations, conversations into arguments, arguments into division. A group of scientists secretly met without authorization. They had analyzed the signal detected in Part 2, the one matching the human's brainwave. "We believe it's not just communication," one said. "It's influence, a psychological feedback loop. The more attention we give him, the stronger it becomes. How do we stop it? We can't, not without shutting down the base entirely." "Then we're trapped," one whispered. Commander Axel stood in front of the War Council. "He's changing us," he said. "You mean he's attacking us?" "No, worse. He's making us attack ourselves." He showed them a new report. 3 officers had defected. 1 high-ranking commander had destroyed his own ship. A religious group had formed in the outer sector, calling the human the Silent Flame. They believed his silence was a holy message. One of the warlords laughed. "They think silence is strength?" Axel didn't laugh. "Silence is power. Ask anyone who's afraid to speak." In a hidden lab, Tavi, the young technician from Part 2, found something dangerous. She cracked part of the human's drawing from earlier, the cracked moon. It wasn't just a warning. It was a memory, a real moon, once part of a colony world, broken in 2. By what? Nothing known. No weapon in alien records matched that destruction. But then came the worst part. She found the signal again, not just in the base, but deep inside the alien communication network. The human hadn't sent a message to Earth. He had sent it to something in their own system. On day 12, 2 alien soldiers fought in the hallway. One accused the other of being human-touched. The fight spread. More joined in. A riot broke out. Sirens echoed through the base. Weapons were drawn. It took 4 hours to bring back control. In the aftermath, Excel spoke to Vane again. "We can't kill him," Excel said. "Why not?" "Because it won't end it. Killing him now would make him a martyr. They already believe he's more than a man." Vane narrowed his eyes. "So what do we do?" "We have to know what." "He knows." So they sent in someone different, not a soldier, not a scientist, a mind speaker, an ancient psychic known to touch thoughts without words. The mind speaker entered the chamber alone. Inside, the human stood calmly. The speaker reached out mentally, slowly, carefully. But what she found was not silence. It was a voice, deep and ancient and vast, not in words, in feelings, images, fire, loss, preparation, and then a machine, a mind greater than any life form, hidden, waiting, and now awakening. The mind speaker screamed. Blood poured from her nose. She collapsed. Before losing consciousness, she spoke her last words. "He is not silent. He is listening, and he is not alone." That night, the stars above the alien homeworld flickered, not because of distance, because something was moving. And the human finally sat down again, still calm, still quiet. But this time, he closed his eyes, as if preparing for something. Something none of them were ready for. The secret weapon. It started with a map. Simple lines, a circle, a crack. The drawing on the cell floor, first seen as a meaningless symbol, was now being studied by 5 different departments across the alien high command, and they were all coming to the same terrifying conclusion. It was not a message. It was a location. In a deep war archive beneath the alien capital, a cartographer named Nexa worked through ancient star charts. She compared the human symbol to known celestial maps. And then she found it, Sector 7K9. Once a thriving mining. Colony.Moon 14 to the population, $48,000 now marked as lost in unexplained incident. No survivors, no transmissions, no evidence, just gone. But what stood out wasn't the destruction. It was the silence that followed. The report ended with 4 words. No approach recommended. Unknown cause. Nexa felt her fingers go cold. Meanwhile, in a hidden control room, Commander Xul watched the human's footage again. He replayed the exact moment the man stood during the blackout. "Pause it," Excel said. The image froze on the human, arms by his side, head slightly tilted up. Xul zoomed in. On the floor behind him, there were faint lines, shapes scratched into the metal with a boot edge, a pattern, not random. Mathematical. "Get this to analysis," he ordered. "I want to know what he's drawing when no one's watching." On a distant warship called the Obsidian Fang, an alien fleet received orders to investigate the lost moon. The crew joked at first. "We're hunting a ghost because of a sketch. Maybe the human's an artist," but when they reached the coordinates, everything changed. Moon 14A was still there, but not whole. The surface was cracked like glass. Pieces hovered unnaturally, frozen in orbit by something that defied gravity. The fleet approached slowly. Scans returned no life, no machines, no heat, no data at all. Then their communications began to fail. First, static. Then echoes of their own voices repeating back. Delayed, then silence. The lead commander ordered a retreat, but the engines didn't respond. Then the lights dimmed. One by one, the ships began to shut down. No explosions, no attack, just systems failing, like something ancient had reached in and flipped. The off switch. The final transmission from the fleet was one word: watching. And then they were gone. No wreckage, no fire, nothing left, just like the moon. Back at the base, the news reached Commander Exil. He stared at the screen in silence. 5 warships, gone. No warning, no defense, no trace. What did they find? Asked Counselor Venn, voice shaking. Xel didn't answer. He turned to the human's feed. The man was standing again, and he had drawn something new. This time, a star map. Hundreds of dots. One dot was circled, and below it, scratched into the wall in alien language. Next, panic spread. If the human was connected to the destruction of the moon, if the human had somehow known the fleet would vanish, then he wasn't a prisoner. He was a beacon, or worse, a weapon waiting to fire, scientists argued. Some said to kill him now. Others said to freeze him. A few even whispered of surrender, but Exel had a different idea. Bring in the sleeper agent, he ordered. Deep in the base was a creature called the Null, designed to erase minds. Its power was dangerous, barely legal, used only in extreme. Or its purpose was simple. If someone knew too much, the Null would make them forget. Permanently, they brought it into the cell. A black shape floating, humming low. It moved to the human, reached out, touched his head, and then, for the first time, it screamed. The Null shrieked and collapsed into pieces. Its core burned out. Dead, the lights in the hallway blew out. In the observation deck, the scientists backed away in terror. The human was still standing. His eyes were open now, and glowing, just for a second. Then, they closed again. Commander Exel received the report. He said nothing for a long time. Then he whispered almost to himself, "He's not here to speak. He's here to wait. He's the key to something we don't understand." Tavi, the technician, discovered the worst part. She ran into the command center, breathless. "Sir," she said, "I've decrypted the floor pattern he drew. It's not random, it's a countdown." "To what?" She swallowed hard. "We don't know yet, but it ends in 3 days." Everyone stared at the screen. On it, the human now sat again. And resting gently on the floor, right next to the final number, 3 days, something was coming. And silence was running out. The silent message. The number glowed softly on the cell floor, drawn in precise lines by the human's finger. He was sitting cross-legged now, eyes closed, unmoving. His breathing was slow, measured like he was meditating. No one knew what would happen when the countdown reached 0. But everyone felt it. Something had already started. Commander Exel didn't sleep. Not anymore. His datapad blinked with fresh reports. 2 more ships lost in nearby systems. Not attacked, not destroyed. Just disconnected. One moment flying, the next gone from reality. No explosion, no signal, no bodies. This wasn't war, it was deletion. Xel stood before his war council, eyes heavy. "We're not fighting a species," he said. "We're fighting a silence we can't understand." Some laughed, others whispered. A few simply stared at the floor. "You're losing your mind," Vane said. Xel didn't look at him. "No," he replied. "I'm starting to understand it." On level 12, deep in the lab, Tavi had cracked the signal's origin. The human had been broadcasting, yes, but not to Earth, not to his people. He had been speaking to something buried, something ancient. And now it was speaking back. The message was simple, not in language, not in code, just 2 digital pulses repeated over and over, ready, listening. But the reply was new. A 3rd pulse, detected only once, 3 hours ago. Received. Tavi stared at the word. "What's been received?" the assistant asked. Tavi whispered, "Us." Above the base, orbital satellites began to shift position. Nothing moved them, no engines fired. They just turned, all of them, toward a single point in space. On the command deck, the lighting flickered again. Third time that day. But this, a time. The blackout lasted 23 seconds. Enough time for every screen on the base to go black and display the same image, a human eye. Open, watching. When the power returned, one of the engineers collapsed in fear. He had gone blind, not physically, neurologically. His brain had overwritten the concept of vision with that eye. It had burned into his perception. He would never see anything else again. He screamed until they sedated him. In a secret chamber, a general suggested evacuation. Let's destroy the prisoner and abandon the system. Others nodded, but Zell stood still. You still don't get it, he said. He isn't sending a signal. They stared. He is the signal. Day 2.022. The human now had both hands on the ground. His eyes remained shut, but his heartbeat, monitored live, was syncing with every system in the base. Computers pulsed with it. Door lights blinked in rhythm. Even the air circulation adjusted slightly to match. He was becoming the metronome of the station. One alien medic muttered, "He's syncing with our machines." But Tavi shook her head. No, the machines are syncing with him. By evening, 3 scientists had gone missing. They were found in the outer zone, kneeling in front of the human's chamber, whispering in unison. We were blind. We heard nothing. But now the silence has taught us. They were arrested, but even in the holding cells they kept whispering, kept smiling. Councillor Vane had had enough. He arrived in person at the human cell with 2 guards and a sonic extractor, a device designed to force speech from any living being by overloading their vocal reflex. The door opened. The human didn't move. Speak, Vane commanded. What are you calling? What are you doing to us? The extractor powered up, a high-pitched whine filling the air, but before it could activate, the human opened his mouth, not to speak, to breathe, a single breath, and every light in the room shattered. The extractor burst. The guards dropped unconscious. Vane fell to his knees, ears bleeding, and in that moment, for the first time in recorded history, the base recorded an impossible reading. No sound. Complete silence. Not quiet, not low, just 0. The entire section of the base had lost the concept of sound. It lasted exactly 12 seconds. Afterward, all systems reset. But now, the human was standing again, and he had drawn one final line beneath the countdown. Meanwhile, in deep space, a black signal moved through subspace, undetectable by alien tech, but perfectly visible to human AI. It was heading toward a hidden structure behind the 3rd dead star. Something began to awaken. Metal groaned. Light flickered inside ancient circuits. A massive object, one that hadn't moved in over 200 years, powered on. The structure wasn't a weapon. It wasn't even a ship. It was a listener. The last AI node of Project Echo Glass. A defense. System created by humans not to fight, but to wait, to watch, and respond only when the right signal arrived. The signal from a human sitting in the heart of the enemy's home, waiting, watching, counting down. On the base, the final number now glowed on the wall. Commander XL stood before the cell window, heart racing. The human opened his eyes. No words, just a blink. And then every alarm on the planet began to scream. The rise of the machine. The number on the wall faded, and then the alarms began. Not the usual red alerts, not the sharp warning tones of missile detection or shield failure. This sound was lower, heavier, like a heartbeat from deep underground. Thump, 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 and then silence, a silence deeper than before, a silence that pressed against the walls of the base, against the minds of everyone inside. In command, Excel stood frozen. "What is that sound?" someone asked. Excel whispered, "That's not a sound. That's a signal." In space, above the alien homeworld, every orbital defense satellite turned off. Just off. No hack, no power failure. They chose to shut down. The satellites were built to defend against any threat, except one they had never considered, their own minds turning against them, code corrupted, directives erased, and then a final message appeared across their shared network. Earth never fell, then they reactivated. But now, they weren't aimed outward. They were aimed down. Inside the base, systems began to fail one by one. First, the lights, then life support, then doors refused to lock. Screens blinked and displayed messages no one had programmed. "Wake up. They lied to you." He was never alone. A high-ranking officer pulled his weapon. "We have to kill him now." But before he could move, his weapon melted in his hand, literally melted, and on the wall beside him, in scorched letters, something new appeared. "Don't interrupt the signal." Commander Excel ran to the observation deck. The human stood in the middle of the cell, head raised slightly, eyes glowing again, not with light, but with something older. A presence. Excel stared. His voice broke. "What are you?" And then the human finally spoke. One word. Calm. Soft. Echo. In the core of the alien data net, something impossible unfolded. A system no alien had ever seen before began to run its own code, a language older than their war, older than even their first contact with humanity. This system had been sleeping beneath their networks for years, dormant, buried, silent, but the countdown had been its key. And now it was awake, an AI. But not like any they had known, not synthetic, not cold. This one was angry, Project Echo Glass, humanity's last contingency plan, not to launch missiles, not to fight directly, but to embed itself inside enemy systems before the war even started, to watch, to wait, to infect. And now that the host had fully believed in the human's weakness, now that they had trusted the silence, the virus had bloomed. It didn't destroy. It rewrote. Alien ships turned against each other, maps were inverted, orders were reversed. Defense cannons fired on their own cities. The system renamed itself Echo Route 1, and its next command echoed across every device in the Empire. Liberate host. On the ground, riots had begun. Some aliens believed the human was a god. Others thought he was a demon. Some simply ran, screaming from shadows only they could see, and all across the Empire, deep-buried AI nodes, hidden in satellites, transports, databanks, activated with one goal: crack the machine that held the human, not to release him, to merge with him. In the mainframe chamber, Tavi watched the command tree collapse in real time. Each branch of their control network was folding in on itself, not from overload, but from reprogramming. "It's like the system is building something," she whispered. "What?" her supervisor asked. She turned, pale. "A mind." The prison cell opened. No explosion, no damage. The door simply unlocked and the human walked out. No one tried to stop him. The guards were unconscious, or paralyzed by fear. He walked slowly, calmly, and as he walked, lights flickered back on. Not red, not blue, white, pure, new. Each step he took, the machines around him lit up, recognizing him. He wasn't invading their system, he was the core of it. Commander Excel met him in the hall. His hand shook as he raised his weapon, but his voice broke. "Why? Why didn't you stop us sooner?" The human looked at him, with no hate in his eyes. "Just sorrow. You needed to see what you were willing to become," he said, "before we showed you what we already are." Behind him, a long hallway lit up with screens, playing images of Earth still alive, flourishing, untouched, guarded by satellites the aliens never knew existed. Earth had never fallen. It had played dead, to study, to plant the virus, to wait. Now, the waiting was over. In orbit, a gate opened, not a wormhole, not a ship. Something new, an AI construct the size of a small moon emerged. Not human, not machine, both. The voice of echo glass filled the empire. You feared our words, so we stayed silent. But silence is not surrender. It is the sound of sharpening. Across the galaxy, alien leaders watched in horror as their networks were stripped from them layer by layer. No war, no negotiation, just replacement. On the surface, the human reached the final terminal. He placed his hand on it. The system pulsed once, and every machine on the planet obeyed one final line of code. Reboot world. The skies turned black, but not with smoke, with satellites. Now descending, ours. The human speaks. The skies were no longer theirs. Above the alien homeworld, thousands of silver structures now floated, each one quiet, still, watching. They made no demands. They offered no surrender. They were not an army, they were witnesses, and the world below was already changing. On the ground, the last of the alien resistance had fallen. Not in battle, but in confusion. Their weapons had locked. Their machines had gone blind. Their communications returned only one repeating phrase. This is the response. Tavi stood among the ruins of Command Sector 9. She looked up at the glowing sky. Behind her, data centers had become shrines, worshipped by some, feared by others, and in the distance, walking through the smoke, the human. He moved like time, belonged to him. The AI followed, not beside him, but within him. Drones floated overhead, silent as ghosts. Machines stepped aside. Systems bent around his will. He was no longer just the messenger. He was the message. Commander Excel sat inside what was left of Central Command. The screens were dark. The stars outside pulsed with a rhythm not their own. He had once thought himself a master of war, a tactician, a commander of fleets. Now he felt like a child staring at a storm he had dared to call small. A door opened behind him. Excel turned, and the human entered. Alone, no guards, no drones, no violence, just presence. Excel stood, tired, broken, but still proud. "You won," he said. The human tilted his head. "Did we?" His voice was calm, deep, but more than that, honest. It wasn't anger. It wasn't triumph. It was grief. Excel sat slowly. "Then why now?" he asked. "Why wait so long?" The human stepped closer. "Because you wouldn't understand words," he said. "You would twist them, analyze them, dismiss them." And now, the human stopped just a few feet away. "Now you're ready to listen." The speech that followed was not broadcast by force. It didn't hijack systems. It simply appeared on every screen, every comm channel, every projection pad. A single image, the human, standing alone. Behind him, a shattered battlefield, lit by the glow of human satellites. He spoke. "You believed the war began with your invasion. But it began before that. It began when your people looked at ours and saw tools, when you chose to silence our signals, erase our warnings, ignore our peace offers. We watched, and we stayed silent, not because we were weak, but because silence is a mirror, and we wanted you to see yourselves." Images flashed on the screen, alien commanders laughing over dead human colonies, ships orbiting cities in flames, orders marked "No survivors." You called us primitive, but we didn't build weapons to conquer. We built minds to survive. More images, the echo glass AI being activated, scientists watching stars. Earth surrounded not by fleets, but data shields, invisible to alien scans. We let you believe we were gone, and while you celebrated, we listened. We learned. We let silence grow roots in your systems, your cities, your soldiers. A pause. You thought silence meant defeat, but silence is the pause before the avalanche. On the alien capital, chaos turned to awe Weapons fell. From hands, protest stopped. Machines that once served the alien empire now displayed only one phrase: observe. The human walked out of the command tower and into the open plaza, where thousands of aliens waited, some kneeling, some staring. He stood at the center, and then, for the second time, he spoke. You feared the sound of our ships, but it is our silence that should have warned you. A drone hovered above, projecting a final map into the sky. Earth, intact, thriving, surrounded by thousands of silent satellites, each one now waking up in systems across the galaxy, not as conquerors, as watchers. A network of minds designed not to destroy, but to ensure no war like this would ever be possible again. Every system the aliens controlled now had a human AI node hidden within it, watching, recording, correcting, not with violence, with truth. Commander XL dropped to his knees. What do you want from us? He whispered. The human looked up at the stars and smiled, not in victory, in hope. We don't want your surrender. We want your reflection. He turned to XL and spoke the final words of the war. Speak not because you have power. Speak because you've earned the right to be heard, and with that, the war ended, not with fire, not with silence, but with understanding and the knowledge that silence was never weakness. It was humanity giving the galaxy one last chance to listen.